Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in to our ATA Chinese Language Division podcast. My name is Jessie. I'm a member of the American Translator Association and the Division of Chinese Language. And today joined with me is Rony. Rony and I were colleagues first, and then we became classmates, and we both recently graduated from Middlebury Institute of International Studies at Monterey, and we both graduated from the Chinese Language Conference Interpreting Program. The school is commonly known and referred to by the name of MIS, M-I-S. I would like for Rony to introduce himself.
Sure. Thank you, Jessie. Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. My name is Rony. And by the way, Jessie, I think we met first through the ATA network. Was that right?
Yes, we
Yeah.
certainly did. Yeah.
So yes, my name is Rony Gao. I have been a member of both the CLD and the ATA for the last 4 years, I think. And I've been a conference speaker at the annual conference for the past 2 years. Again, my pleasure to be joining you today, Jessie.
Thanks, Rony, for making the time to make this podcast and to share your experience. But first and foremost, I would like to congratulate you. This is certainly a big thing in school that you recently represented our school to at this international competition held in Beijing, and you won the first prize with one of other classmates. Why don't you share with us the experience of going through the competition? Was it stressful? How did you like it?
Thank you, Jessie. Indeed, it was stressful, of course. I'm really glad it was over now. I can't believe it's over. Yeah, so like you said, it is a tournament technically held in Beijing with some contestants going to Beijing, and they were all in the same interpreting lab to compete. And other, I think, half of the teams competing remotely with the same content. So there was some time difference. We took part in it when it was nighttime over here in North America and morning there in Beijing. And I think some of the UK schools had to, those students had to wake up super early and take part in the afternoon portion of the competition in Beijing. But, you know, it's kind of incredible that it all worked out. And it was the same group of judges. And I'm really, really glad that we did represent our school well and took the prize home.
Okay, that's certainly a phenomenal thing that you did. You represented the school under a lot of pressure and stress, because I know I wouldn't have had the courage to do it myself. So kudos to you, very good. So let's talk about going back to school. I know it was not an easy decision for me to stop working and going back to school. And I remember before going back to school, I actually reached out to you and asked for your opinion and some advice. And you were so kind, and you actually had some practice sessions with me to get me more prepared, which I really, really still feel thankful till today. Why don't you tell us how you came to the point of joining the program, and then I can probably share some of my insights too about why I joined the program.
Sure. My answer to your question would be a little bit ironic because this was all thanks to COVID-19. I decided to give it a try since at the time, I think was around April or May of 2020, the Middlebury Institute announced that they will continue with remote instruction for the fall semester. And that gave me hope that I might be able to just complete this program without leaving my home in Toronto. And I did do that. And I did do that without leaving Toronto and moving to Monterey. To borrow your words, you know, it's when there's no work, it's the perfect time to work on your skills and upgrade your skills, hopefully. Those who know me would know that I'm such a nerd that I generally enjoy being a student anyway. So the idea of going back to school, although it's virtually, and being a student again was actually quite attractive to me this whole time.
That's, yeah, but what about the actual program? How do you feel that has benefited you in terms of has it made your interpreting skills better? Do you feel that you've broken through some bottlenecks in your interpreting skills? Have you met the right people? Have you expanded your network, so to speak, through the maybe 1 year program at MIS? And then also just for our listeners, our program is usually 2 years, but Rony joined us from the second year on because he took the advanced entry exam and he was able to shorten the length of study to 1 year instead of 2 years.
Yes, right. Thanks for mentioning that as well, Jessie. So, my answers to all of your questions above is yes, 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 and yes. All boxes checked. Like I always say, the investment is not just for the classes that you take. It's a whole package. It's the training itself, it's the prestige of the school, its alumni network, and all of the unforeseen opportunities that you simply don't know exist until they come to you. And I guess the tournament you just mentioned was a good example. I couldn't have imagined taking part in such a thing had I not joined the program.
I remember 2 years ago, and you know her, Winnie, our career counselor, a very wonderful lady who's always there to help us. She once said something that an interpreter or a translator in this profession, we are our own business. So yes, skills, very important. Yes, we need to always be on top of our game, but it is also important we have the network because we run the business ourselves. And she gave this very astonishing analogy that really spoke to me. She said, it's like a train track. On one side, you have your skills, and then on the other side, you need to manage your network. You need to know how to deal with your clients and the people that are in business with you, your booth partners, so you can run a business successfully. So for a train, if you have just a single track, the train cannot travel. The train has to be on the 2-track. So that I thought was such a wonderful analogy, and also your experience at MIS certainly spoke to that analogy.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for putting that so well. I wanted to add a third dimension to it. Like you said, that your professional skills, the interpreting skills is one track. Business skills, which is a broad term, of course, is the second one. And nowadays, I feel increasingly that there's a third dimension to it, which is you have to be tech savvy as well in order to survive and thrive in this profession. It's Zoom that made everything possible for me in this past year. All of our classes and even exams were taken on Zoom. It's Zoom that made a lot of things more accessible and more affordable, including the interpretation service that we provide, and that is going to be the new normal. So in terms of teaching and pedagogy, I'm also a big believer in, moving forward using a hybrid mode of teaching. I think even when we completely put this pandemic behind us, there are still some good reasons to continue with some elements of online teaching, even when we don't have to.
I think that's an interesting point. And we happen to be, I would say, the first batch of trained interpreters who really have to, or really forced to get used to working with Zoom, whether it's working a conference or through school exams. And how do you like that? Did you feel that, or did you think it was going to affect the quality of your training?
Not so much affecting the quality of the training, but rather made it possible for me to do the program in the first place. Simply put, I'm in a situation where I would not have been able to attend the program in person. So I don't have much to complain about the school being on Zoom. And in fact, like I said, there are some silver linings to it. But I think, it comes with pros and cons. Of course, there's the elements of, social interaction, the chemistry, for lack of a better word, that'll be missing when we don't physically see each other. Well, we see each other on Zoom, but when we don't, see each other in the same room. But it also came with some unexpected perks. We could have more guest speakers that are located all around the world. We can have practice sessions with schools from even other interpreting schools or even other continents. And also we can learn a useful skill, which is RSI, remote simultaneous interpreting, that will prove to be so helpful after we graduate anyway.
Remote interpreting has been around, maybe not so much as in Zoom interpreting, but telephonic interpreting has always been there. But I think this pandemic just really accelerated that shift to where online interpreting or RSI is more acceptable, and people or clients are basically seeing the advantage that RSI is offering. And on a different note, I know you're quite experienced in RSI. Do you have any tips or tricks that maybe you can share with us, since a lot of these works are going to be online now?
Well, that's a good question. We can talk for 3 days and 3 nights about it. But I'll just say 2 things come to mind. One is to make sure that you are well equipped with the right hardware and software, and make sure that you are really familiar with whatever technology that is to be used. And the second is to, in my opinion, no one should lower their fees for the service simply because they are delivering the service online. If anything, RSI has been shown to be harder than in person or interpreting in a physical booth. So in my experience, luckily in the last 12 months, that has not been the case. Generally speaking, fees are not pushed down as much as people had initially thought they would be, which is good for us all.
I remember before, or when I was still in the process of making the decision whether to go to Miss or not, I thought, well, I wasn't going to get much more paid if I just graduate from Miss with that degree, because my line of work, right, it doesn't really matter if we have a degree, but rather just that certification. But I still decided to go. And only now and only today, after 2 years, I have come to appreciate how much I would have missed had I not made that decision. And I was so glad that I did. And I want to really tell everyone that if you feel it, just do it. Sometimes we may not actually see the reason why. And I think just like Rony and I both have agreed on, that there are so many opportunities we just don't know that are just around the corner, are waiting for us, but we don't know. But if we don't take the step towards it, we will never be able to find out. And I think that's the amazing part. And that's really just the crux of the profession, really. It's just like you never know what's going to be your next assignment, what's going to be the next topic you'll be interpreting. So always get ready and always be prepared. And that's also the exciting part about this profession, I think.
Exactly. I cannot agree with you more, Jessie. So the one point I would make here, though, is that professional development isn't about doing this for 1 year and not touching it again. That won't work either. So what you and I did in the last year, I don't regret doing it. But I think the most effective professional development training should be small doses on a regular basis. Even though you have degrees, even though you have this and that credential, I think it's still imperative that you get some training, attend workshops, and chat with people and hear about what others are doing in the field every once in a while. And for that reason, I also highly recommend the ATA annual conferences, which I think is a great way of exposing yourself to some of the newer trends in the field and also get your skills up to speed.
And to quote a recently popularity gaining word, I certainly echo that, joining ATA, because without ATA, without going to that conference in 2018, I would not have met Winnie. I would not have learned about the Middlebury Institute of International Studies at Monterey, and I would not have met you, Rony, and I would not have known a lot of the things that I do know today. You will never know what you missed until you see what you almost would have missed. I think that's the best way to put it. So I believe in this saying that always saying yes, err on the side of saying yes. Just go do it already.
I echo that. I echo everything you just said.
Very good. That would conclude our program for today. Okay, well, thank you everyone for listening.